Well, welcome everybody. My name is Elizabeth Bach. I am a research scientist working with the Nature Conservancy, and I'm based at a preserve called the Nachusa Grasslands, located on the ancestral homelands of the Potawatomi, Peoria, Meskwaki, Sauk, and numerous other indigenous nations and communities. Today, this territory is known as Illinois. I am absolutely thrilled to welcome all of you to the Grasslands and Prairies breakout session as part of the Natural Areas Association virtual meeting this fall. I want to particularly welcome all of you who may, for whom maybe this is your first time at a Natural Areas Association event. We are so happy you're here. Also, if this is the first time that you've interacted with the Long-Term Ecological Research Network, welcome. We're so happy you're here as well. We have 4 speakers this afternoon. Each speaker will have about 15 minutes to give their talk, and we'll have a short period for some direct questions about those talks. Once the 4 speakers have presented, we'll have a longer discussion time where we talk about some common themes and explore ways that long-term research community and land management practitioners can collaborate and think about future directions. I will remind everybody, bring your curiosity and your passion, but let's be respectful and kind as we ask questions and explore new topics. And this session is being recorded so that others can see the discussion as well. And that includes the chat, and that includes direct chats to people that aren't that aren't going out to the whole group. So keep that in mind. With that, I'm going to quit talking and introduce our first speaker, Dr. Maowei Liang. Dr. Liang is a research scientist at the Cedar Creek Ecosystem Science Reserve in Minnesota. His research spans community and ecosystem ecology, and his particular interest is in exploring connections in changing ecosystem functions and shifts in plant communities. Dr. Liang, please feel free to share your screen and welcome. I see it now. Thank you.
Here we go.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction about myself and also the Cedar Creek research. And my name is Maowei Liang, and I'm the research scientist at the Cedar Creek. And today I will share some our research about biodiversity conservation, carbon cycling, and the ecosystem stability in Oldfield and Cedar Creek. And first, I'd like to give a brief introduction about the Cedar Creek. So Cedar Creek is the full name is Cedar Creek Ecosystem Science Reserve, and it's about a 2,000 hectare field station in the central Minnesota. And the reserve is run by College of Biological Science and the University of Minnesota. So given the vast of area and the Cedar Creek, we have a variety of the ecosystems, including the grassland and the wetland, and also the forestry and the oak savanna scattered all our territory. And also, so our mission is to distinguish those complexity of those natural ecosystem, and also we're trying to share the potential sustainable solutions to the environmental challenges. And to achieve such a mission, we have conducted a variety of the research program. And for the research project, we have conducted the longest run, as many people probably know about this Cedar Creek biodiversity experiment. And also several key global change drivers, such as CO2 enrichment, warming, and the drought, nutrient addition, and then the pesticides have been nested within those biodiversity experiments to investigate the interaction of between biodiversity laws and those global change factors of the ecosystems functions. And also for the conservation part, our territory also have been used the perspective, and for both the research project, perspective, and also the land management purpose since the 1960s. And another thing is about the deer population. and without top predators, also the hunting and their population is increasing, growing and the reserve. And this year we just started hunting events for the public in Cedar Creek in the next couple weeks. And we also have started concern about the reintroducing bison in our reserve, and especially in the oak savanna area to manage the reserve. And particularly, we have conducted a bison experiment across the different fire frequency regime in savanna area, and also to investigate the interaction between the bison grazing and the fire frequency on the savanna ecosystem. And we also have as an educational institution, and we're thinking about education is very important for our mission. And we have a K-12 education program. And annually, we probably have like 5,000 students come over the site and to do some fun and education. And also we have a monthly lunch with a scientist for education. Basically, we invited the faculty, postdoc, graduate students, all the other research come to the reserve and give a talk for the public and the people, just to increase our broad impacts of our research. And we also have a quarterly newsletter, and the newsletter is more like the share the research story to the public. And about the LTER program, the Cedar Creek LTER was founded in 1982. As many of the LTER sites, we are primarily studying those 5 core research areas in the many experiments. So it has been well known from the many manipulative experiments. And today I'd like to share some of the results, especially for the natural area management perspective. I'm delighted to share some results from one of our longest ongoing observation project in the Old Field and the Cedar Creek. And to the end of the presentation, I hope some of my summaries can help or provide some useful information, especially for the abandoned land management for the restoration purpose. Old fields refer to the area of the land typically previously used for the agriculture purpose, and then has been abandoned, and those lands are in the process of the nature succession. So over time, those fields will undergo the ecological changes, transition from the earlier colonized species, often like the weed species, to the more mutual plant community, potentially will lead to the either the grassland, native prairie, or the forestry. But it totally depends on the environmental context. And then the study of the old fields also can provide the insights for the ecological questions, specifically the question about the plant species colonization, dispersal, invasion, and also the plant community succession, as well as the ecosystem recovery from the disturbance. And so on the Cedar Creek map, and those on the right side, those yellow polygons are the old fields, and it contributed about the 40% of the Cedar Creek land for the research, education, and also the conservation, sorry. And since 1982, and we approximately like 12 fields has been monitored, and we did the observation including plant diversity, plant community biomass, and on the annual base, as well as the soil carbon and nitrogen every 5 years. And so apparently those fields are experiencing the succession changes over the time. Here's the example for the successional dynamics in one of the 100 fields. And look at the left side, the picture, especially the further one shows the open area before the agriculture abandonment, while the latest in the 20 is shows the land has become forestry. And with the different age of those field, our old field research have also focused on the ecosystem restoration perspectives, particularly whether the biodiversity, whether the carbon storage, and the ecosystem stability increase with the field age. And first, I'd like to share some results from previous studies, the successional changes in the old field. And typically we found perennials take over the annuals while the native species become more dominant in the field. And the left side shows the annuals, the forbs decline, but the right side, the perennial, especially the grasses, increased over time. So if we look at closer, the most of the increased species are the perennial safer grass, and some of the forbs and the legumes probably also increase over time, but definitely around like after 20 or 30 years is getting more saturated. And so after the agriculture abandonment, in the first few years, the exotic annual species are very abundant in the field, and later, such as the big blue stem, like the perennial grasses, became more abundant and outcompete those annual species. And the ecosystem from the old field abandonment became the grassland area. And also for the restoration, for the biodiversity conservation, and in our latest results, we found those as those annual perennial species recover, the plant diversity also shows an increase with the field age. However, compared to the overall the mean, and even like almost 100 years, and only about 70% species biodiversity recovery. There are still about 30% deficiency of the biodiversity conservation. It's also telling us there is a long journey for the biodiversity conservation, particularly in those old fields. And with the increase of the plant diversity, ecosystem functioning usually increase. We learn from the biodiversity experiment. So we also expect the ecosystem productivity, either like both above ground shoot biomass and below ground root biomass increase with the field age. And with the increase in the productivity, and those fields definitely captured more CO2 from the atmosphere to store it as an organic matter. And so another study also found the soil carbon stock in those fields are increased with the field age, but it only happens in the surface soil, especially 0 to 20 centimeters. But the deeper soil had a very large variation, and possibly it just started to accumulate. And then another result for the ecosystem stability. So the stability here we defined as the temporal invariability of the biomass. It is important indices that tell us how the ecosystem resists interannual environmental fluctuations. The first at the ecosystem level and the left side, and you can say the stability didn't change too much over like across different field age. And it is really because the two components of this ecosystem stability cancel out. For instance, the species level, the stability increases with the field age, but the species asynchronous declines over time. Across the field age. And presumably, I was thinking about it because the dominant species, safer grass, is probably keeping accumulation over time during the succession. And now I want to have your attention to the changes in the area of agricultural abandoned land in the U.S. And the data from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. It shows the decrease in the agricultural land between 1960s and 2020s. In the total, about 40 million hectares are lost compared to the area in the 1960s. Basically, we have lost about 10% of agriculture in the US, which means we probably have those land transformed to the either grassland or the forestry. And especially the most of agricultural land has been abandoned in the Great Plains. And it means that those more like the abandoned lands became grassland in the future, and at least it experienced the grassland succession trajectories. So it brings back to me to think about the biological knowledge that we have learned from the old field succession research. I think there is also a key question that should be recognized is how can we better use those knowledge to bend the what we call the biodiversity loss curve, and another thing like how we can use those knowledge to do the research for long-term research for mitigating climate impacts through the biodiversity conservation. And given that short presentation, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Maowei. Are there folks that have questions in the audience? You're welcome to come off of mute and turn on your camera. There is one question in the Q&A. So Maowei, maybe you can get started on that, and then we'll get a few others to hop on here. Was any management done in the old fields in this study? Herbiciding, adding seed, prescribed fire, etc.?
The most of those field has not been the herbiciding and also the seeding. And since 2006, and we started burning the half of the field, and the results I didn't show the burning effects. Definitely the burning has a very strong effect for those fields, and also for the biodiversity, and also for the carbon accumulation.
Okay, interesting. Craig, do you have a question? Okay. Sarah, do you have a question?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. So Meow, is that how you say?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
oh, awesome. I'm over here on the East Coast, and we have almost no studies of our grassland ecology at all because we're mostly forest. And one of the things I encounter a lot in my teaching and outreach is that people get all of their information from the central United States, from the prairie states, where you do have some research. And so I'm wondering what kind of soil this particular set of old fields had. Was it, and you may know soil science terminology, maybe, what were they, mollisols, or were they altisols, or basically did they have a large organic carbon rich horizon, or is it just a little organic, not carbon rich horizon over a lot of weathered minerals?
Yeah, our soil is a very poor nutritious soil, so it's a very sandy soil.
Okay.
And some of the field, if we didn't do anything in the field, especially from the north of our property, it became to the forestry, and the south part became like a more like oak savanna area.
Okay, that's perfect. That's exactly what I needed to know. And so you've published this so that I can go somewhere and read it?
Yeah, definitely help me. Like, feel free to send me an email or something. I can send you all the results from those publications.
Thank you. This is exactly what I needed to know. Thank you.
And also another thing, like think about the environmental changes in a different location. I think another one is because Minnesota is like the Cedar Creek is like a mixed vegetation type. And if you go to other place, probably the old field became the grassland, but some place like definitely old field can be like became the forestry, like the one of the sites we haven't do anything, the system became to the forestry land.
Okay, fantastic. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. I see one more question in the Q&A, and then we'll transition to our next speaker. This is also from Craig Billington. With the old fields, were there any drain tiles removed or hydrological restoration? Was that part of the historic land use or the agricultural land use on that site?
I think that's a good question for me to ask other people, but definitely I think basically just to use the early time, you just use the agriculture and then they abandoned, we didn't do anything for the restoration, definitely.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Maowei, and thank